Clove was added to Valorant a week ago, and in that week I spent over 24 hours playing only Clove. In this video, I'll be going over some tips and things I learned throughout all my games, ultimately coming to a conclusion about how good Clove really is. Even though you'll already be familiar with some of these things, chances are if you make it to the end of the video, you'll learn something new. I put a lot of time and effort into making this, so if you do end up finding the video entertaining or useful, please share it with someone who you think will find it useful too. Let's first focus on Clove's C ability, the Pick Me Up. This ability is incredibly strong on pistol rounds, as obviously it's quite similar to Reyna's Devour. I found that my go-to pistol buy would be a Ghost, Smoke and Pick Me Up, and when you get that first kill, it'll almost always lead into a snowball effect where you can just pick up more and more frags with the extra health and speed. For example, I never would have gotten this kill without the Pick Me Up, not only from the extra health, but even just the speed so that the enemy Clove whiffed. Then there was also this round where the extra speed helped me get to the spike in time. It also doesn't take much to activate Pick Me Up. Like here, I'm just spamming a smoke, randomly deal 20 damage to someone, and then when they die, I'm able to get the health and speed. That extra health goes a long way, again, especially on pistol and eco rounds. Like here, I took almost 200 damage total and still lived. One thing I noticed is that the overheal can be interrupted by incoming damage, so in order to get the most out of it, you ideally want to be safe when pressing C. This of course is also important since the animation for Pick Me Up puts your gun away, and if you use it at the wrong time, the enemy has a free kill on you. By far my favorite part of Pick Me Up though is the speed boost. Getting a kill, taking a second, and then just wide swinging. Enemies are almost never expecting you to be moving that fast across their screen, and it is just so much fun running around and overheating with this ability active. I really like this clip as an example of that, where I first used the metal to kill Breach, and then strafe for the extra speed as soon as I see Omen to catch him off guard. As fun as the Pick Me Up is, I honestly found myself getting more value out of metal, Clove's Q ability. In this instance, I hit 4 enemies with it, and the decay just leads to some of the easiest kills you could hope for. You can get pretty creative with the metal, bouncing it off objects and timing it right to pop at certain points in the air, affecting large areas. One of my favorite places to get value out of this was a short on bind. You can stand safely back here, bounce it off the wall, and then get multiple spam kills on anyone running through. While that was the most consistent place I found value, it certainly wasn't limited to bind. On the A side of Icebox, there were multiple places I found you could land the metal pretty easily, and over this box in Split will often tag people pushing mid. Another really nice spot particular to a map is this window on Sunset A main, punishing any defenders getting aggressive. Of course, this will also work on the other side of things if you want to be the one pushing out on defense. The main thing to keep in mind is that the metal will explode a little over a second after throwing it, or roughly 30 meters away if it doesn't hit anything. As much as you'll want to be looking out for creative uses like that, where it pops midair, chucking it on the ground and choke points can just as easily get the job done. I've already had multiple rounds getting spam kills from tree on ascent, and if you get extra util from your teammates, it can be even deadlier. Speaking of getting help from your teammates, you'll want to be thinking about any damage dealing utility that you can combo with. Whether that be a raise grenade, KO molly or killjoy nanoswarm, a well-timed metal can make all of those insanely strong. Here I was even able to get my Viper double kill using a snake bite. As much as I said to go for the Ghost and Pick Me Up on pistol rounds earlier, the metal is super strong on pistol rounds too. I never bought it much personally, but here you can see I got destroyed by that plus a raise nade at the start of a half. Since it deals 90 decay damage, that makes enemies one tap to a classic headshot. So sure, you'll still need to have a little bit of luck on your side, but the classic right click can become just a little bit more reliable. Of course, you can always stick to those unreliable methods too. Whether you prefer running and gunning or wallbanging, using the metal will make those kills happen way more frequently. Even if you aren't the one following up on the decay, you should let your team know where you're throwing it. In both of these examples, my Jet was able to follow up with things that wouldn't normally one-shot, like a Jet knife to the body or a Judge. Or here where I threw it towards this Phoenix, and then when his attention was on me, my Reyna swung and killed him. There are a few things you need to be careful of with metal. For example, it can actually affect teammates, and the last thing you want is them getting one-tapped because of you. I also have to show this clip I find funny, where I decayed the enemy Clove, and they end up dying to their own Razor's nade. Another thing is making sure the decay actually ticks all the way down, as it's not instant. Here I swing this guy too early and can't properly capitalize on the metal. On the other hand though, you don't want to wait too long either, as if you do, the decay will just wear off and you'll end up embarrassing yourself. You have a roughly 5-second window to make the most out of the 90 damage. Here I hit both enemies and should have pushed, but I decided not to act and instead end up dying to their Clove metal.
Last player standing.
Overall, Clove's metal is incredibly fun to use, and I honestly got way more value out of it than I expected to. A lot of people don't rate this ability too highly, but I'd say it's one you really shouldn't overlook. Next, let's talk about Ruse, Clove's signature ability. Of course, these are going to be the smokes you're dropping for your team every round, or you should be at least, even after dying. That part especially took ages for me to get used to, and there would be times where I had smokes to offer but was just zoned out, since on any other agent, I would be completely out of the round. Like here, I remembered eventually, but I should have been faster and made the round easier for my team.
Blocking sight.
Eventually though, I stopped going on TikTok after dying and started contributing to the team instead. Here's one of my favorite examples of that, where the spike is down in a precarious spot, but I can simply smoke it off for my chamber to grab. Because of the limited range though, you do need to be careful where you die. Oftentimes if you try flanking on Clove, you'll get caught out and not be able to smoke anything. Whenever you can place a dead smoke though, it is so important to comment to your team what you're doing and what they should do with that information. Like here, it would simply be, Gecko, I'm smoking your market, you can plant safely with Wingman. Or here would be, guys, I'm smoking your market cross, you should go B. Especially on controller, using comms is so important, and even though that's obvious, a lot of people overlook it or are hesitant to comm for various reasons. So with that in mind, I feel the need to stress the point of telling your teammates where you're smoking. Especially when you're dead and they might have even forgotten that you can do that, you need to be on the same page with them. This round is one of my favorite examples. I die towards A, drop a smoke towards A, and Neon also makes a lot of noise towards A, all indicating to the enemy team that that's where we're going. So they see all that utility and of course rotate towards A, leaving the B side open, and we just get to walk out for free. Another simple thing you can do for your team after you're dead is smoking off the spike to defuse it. There are of course some scenarios where you shouldn't, like if the enemy team has a judge or if your teammate is low, but generally dropping a smoke on the spike is going to be the right play to make the enemy more uncertain about what's going on. Now this is far from the most practical example, but it's worth keeping in mind you can place one ways with Clove smokes on some parts of the map. Some more realistic places that come to mind are A main on Ascent, or outside C mount on Lotus. Finally, just a reminder to always keep your smokes flush with entryways so that enemies can't lurk in them and then do something like this.
My ult is ready.
Spike down B.
Refresh right here.
One enemy remaining.
Lastly, we come to Clove's ultimate, not dead yet. I honestly struggled with using this properly early on, and even now still find myself using it in situations that are just a guaranteed second death. From all those failed ultimates though, I've come out with a few general rules that I like to think about when using Clove's ult. First and foremost, does my team actually need me here? Initially, I would get way too trigger happy with pressing X on Clove. I'd be feeling myself, die, want to go for more, only to realize that my team has actually already killed everyone. Because of that, I would often even die a second time too, since there were no more enemies nearby to actually charge my ult off. So as a general rule, in most situations, you should use up the full 3 seconds that you're offered before reviving, and use that time to assess if the team actually needs you or not. The next rule I keep in mind now is, can I actually get out of my ultimate safely? Again, I used to press it way too quickly without considering the situation I was in, and whether or not there are any corners for me to get around before the enemies could get to me. Of course, there will be times where you can pull off some crazy movement and catch the enemy off guard, but that isn't exactly consistent, and the safer option is to, well, play safer. Here's a better ultimate example, where I can actually safely get around the corner in time, I then just take the fights poorly.
Never left.
One enemy remaining.
My turn.
Trust me, the last thing you want to do is be the Clove who immediately dies again after ulting. I've been in both positions there, and I can safely say it is much more fun to be the one getting the double kill. Another thing I keep in mind is, can I actually fight the enemies? The easiest way to deal with the Clove ultimate is to simply run away from them and let the timer expire. Too many times I've foolishly used my ult, only to have the enemy just be running away before I've even respawned. Instead, you should use it when there's time pressure on the enemy and they're forced to fight you, typically when the spike is involved.
Never
Standing.
left.
One enemy remaining.
I've also done the wrong thing on the other end of this though, as in I've peeked into a Clove ult when I should have just waited it out. So I'm just making another point here, if you can wait out a Clove's ultimate, you should. Even though it only works when you're an attacker with the spike planted, Clove's ultimate is great for closing out 1v1s. It's not a common scenario, so I wouldn't recommend saving it specifically for this, but a second life when the enemy is just about to defuse is a pretty sure way to close out the round. Just before jumping to my conclusions about Clove, I want to show this round as it's one of my favorites I've had on them, including a classic metal kill and running away from a Clove ult.
Here. Yeah. Refreshing. Drop in a smoke.
Last player standing.
That's
One
the
enemy
magic
remaining.
fun. My
One enemy remaining.
four in the dark. My ult is ready. No peeking.
So how good is Clove really? I think they have a very convincing spot in the ranked meta, and they're just so similar to Reyna. They're both selfish agents encouraging an aggressive playstyle, and for that reason they're fine and even good for solo queue, but weaker in more organized play or even pro play. Of course, we are trying to stick to talking about Clove in just the normal competitive mode here, and my experience playing with them was a lot of fun. I definitely wouldn't say they're broken, but I don't think I can say they're perfectly balanced with a straight face either. I don't think any changes to Clove are necessary, but it is also early days. I'm just glad we finally have a really solid agent on launch of Valorant, because a lot of the other recently released agents have just been terrible, needing multiple buffs just to become something remotely viable. Circling back to that tier list now, here's where I would place Clove. Keep in mind this is just for ranked, not pro player or anything, and it is just a rough ranking I pretty quickly threw together. Looking at the controllers overall, I think Clove is honestly going to be the best in ranked. While Omen offers more utility, Clove is so self-sufficient and can still be useful to the team while fragging out, so they're simply going to be chosen more often. Clove isn't really going to be competing with Viper since they fill very different roles, but I do expect Viper to become less popular soon, assuming more nerfs come through. That's just my first week of Clove and I don't plan on stopping playing them anytime soon, so if you guys want more videos like this, show some support on this one by liking and commenting, and I'll see you in the next one.